Welcome to Module 5 of the AI Professional Certification Series, AI Certified Assistant Builder. In previous sessions, we learned how to write effective prompts, build custom GPTs, create simple AI apps, and design structured workflows. In this session, we take the next step forward by learning how to build a practical AI assistant. An AI assistant goes beyond a single prompt. It follows structured instructions and performs a specific task consistently. In this lesson, we'll build a real assistant designed for a common business activity, researching sales prospects. By the end of this module, you'll know how to create a sales prospect research assistant using Google Gemini. This assistant will help you quickly understand a company, identify likely challenges, and prepare outreach messages. Most importantly, you'll learn the simple framework used to design assistants for many different tasks. An AI assistant is a specialized AI tool designed to perform a specific task repeatedly and reliably. Instead of asking the AI random questions each time, an assistant operates under a defined role and follows structured instructions. Think of it as giving the AI a job description. Once the assistant understands its role and responsibilities, it can produce more consistent results. For example, a sales assistant might research companies, summarize insights, and suggest messaging strategies. A marketing assistant might generate campaign ideas or analyze audience trends. The key difference between a normal AI interaction and an assistant is structure. Assistants follow a predictable process. They receive specific inputs, apply instructions step by step, and produce structured outputs. When designed well, assistants save time and help professionals perform routine tasks much faster. To understand assistants, it helps to see how they fit into the broader progression of AI skills. A prompt is a single instruction given to an AI system. It produces one output, and then the interaction ends. A workflow connects multiple prompts together in a sequence. Each step builds on the previous step to complete a larger task. An assistant takes things one step further. It combines structured instructions, workflows, and defined outputs into a reusable tool. Instead of manually guiding every step, the assistant automatically performs the process. You can think of it this way. Prompting asks the AI a question. Workflows guide the AI through steps. Assistants package those steps into a repeatable system. This makes assistants extremely useful for tasks that professionals perform frequently. Businesses are increasingly adopting AI assistants because they help automate routine knowledge work. Many professional tasks follow predictable patterns. Researching information, preparing reports, drafting emails, and summarizing conversations are all examples. AI assistants can perform these activities much faster than manual processes. Instead of starting from scratch each time, employees can rely on a consistent assistant to generate structured outputs. This not only saves time, but also improves consistency across teams. When everyone uses the same assistant, the results follow the same format and logic. As AI tools continue to evolve, assistants will become embedded in everyday workflows. Professionals who understand how to design assistants will have a significant advantage because they can turn repetitive work into automated systems. AI assistants can be applied to many different areas of business. In sales, assistants can research prospects, analyze customer needs, and prepare outreach messages. In marketing, assistants can generate content ideas, summarize campaign results, and identify audience insights. Operations teams can use assistants to summarize meetings, organize information, and draft reports. Human resources teams can build assistants to screen resumes or prepare interview questions. The common theme is that assistants handle structured tasks that follow predictable steps. In this module, we will focus on a very practical example, helping sales professionals prepare for conversations with potential customers. This is an activity that happens every day in many organizations, making it a perfect opportunity for an AI assistant. Before reaching out to a potential customer, sales professionals usually spend time researching the company. They might read the company's website, scan news articles, and try to understand the industry. This research is important because it helps the salesperson tailor their message and demonstrate an understanding of the prospect's business. However, the process can be time consuming. A salesperson might spend 20 or 30 minutes researching each prospect before sending a single email. Multiply that across dozens of prospects, and a large amount of time is spent on research alone. An AI assistant can dramatically simplify this process. Instead of manually gathering information, the assistant can generate a structured prospect brief within seconds. When preparing to contact a prospect, a salesperson typically wants to understand several key things. First, they need a basic overview of the company. What does the company do, and what market does it serve? Second, they need insight into the industry. What challenges are companies in that space currently facing? Third, they need to understand the priorities of the specific role they are contacting. A VP of sales cares about different issues than a head of marketing or a chief financial officer. Finally, they need a way to start the conversation. This might include messaging ideas, a short outreach email, or thoughtful discovery questions. Our assistant will generate all of these elements automatically. In this lesson, we will build a simple but powerful assistant called the Sales Prospect Research Assistant. This assistant is designed to help sales professionals prepare for outreach and discovery calls. Instead of manually researching a prospect, the user simply provides a few pieces of information. These inputs include the company name, the industry, and the role of the person they plan to contact. Using those inputs, the assistant will analyze the information and generate a structured sales brief. This brief will include a company overview, potential challenges, messaging angles, and suggested outreach content. The goal is to give the salesperson a quick understanding of the prospect so they can start a meaningful conversation. The Sales Prospect Research Assistant performs several useful tasks automatically. First, it provides a short overview of the company and its likely priorities. Next, it identifies common challenges that companies in the same industry may face. This helps the salesperson understand the context of the prospect's business. The assistant then analyzes the target buyer role and explains what that person is likely focused on in their job. Finally, it generates practical sales assets such as messaging angles, a cold outreach email, and suggested discovery questions. All of this information appears in a structured format, so the salesperson can quickly review it and prepare for their conversation. Every AI assistant needs clear inputs. Inputs are the information the assistant uses to perform its task. For our Sales Prospect Research Assistant, the inputs are intentionally simple. The user provides the company name, the industry, and the role of the person they plan to contact. Optionally, the user may also include the company website. This can provide additional context for the AI. These inputs give the assistant enough information to generate a useful prospect brief. Designing good inputs is an important part of assistant building. If the inputs are clear and structured, the assistant can produce much better results. The outputs of the assistant are the results it produces for the user. In this case, the assistant generates a structured prospect brief. The brief includes a short company summary, a list of likely industry challenges, and an explanation of the target buyer's priorities. It also produces several practical sales tools. These include messaging angles that could start a conversation, a short outreach email tailored to the role, and several discovery questions. These outputs help the salesperson quickly prepare for outreach without performing extensive manual research. Well designed outputs are a key feature of effective assistance because they provide information in a clear and actionable format. Successful assistants usually follow three simple design principles. First, define the assistant's role clearly. The AI needs to understand what job it is performing and what outcome it should produce. Second, Provide step-by-step instructions. Instead of asking the AI to solve everything at once, guide it through a sequence of actions. Third, specify the structure of the output. When the AI knows how the results should be organized, the outputs become much more consistent. These three rules form the foundation of assistant design. Once you understand them, you can build assistants for many different business tasks. When building an AI assistant, the first and most important step is clearly defining the assistant's role. The AI needs to understand exactly what job it is performing. Think of this like writing a job description for a new employee. If your instruction is vague, such as help me with sales research, the AI has too much freedom, and the results will vary every time. Instead, we want to be specific about the assistant's purpose. A better instruction would be something like, you are a B2B Sales Research Assistant. Your job is to analyze a target company and produce a structured sales brief for a sales professional preparing for outreach. This simple change dramatically improves the quality of results. The clearer the role definition, the more consistent and useful the assistant's responses will be. After defining the role, the next step is telling the assistant exactly what to do and in what order. AI performs much better when it follows a clear sequence of instructions. Think of it like writing a checklist for a new employee. Instead of asking the assistant to research a company, break the task into clear steps. For example, the assistant might first gather information about the company. Next, it analyzes the industry. Then it identifies potential business challenges. Finally, it generates outreach messaging. When the instructions follow a logical sequence like this, the assistant produces far more reliable results. Each step builds on the previous one, which helps the AI organize its thinking. This simple technique transforms a basic prompt into a structured assistant that performs a repeatable workflow. The third rule of assistant design is defining how the output should be structured. When the AI knows how the response should be formatted, the results become much easier to read and use. For example, you might ask the assistant to organize its output into sections such as company overview, industry challenges, buyer priorities, outreach email, and discovery questions. You can also specify how much detail each section should contain. For instance, you might ask for 3 to 5 bullet points for each section. Providing an example can also help guide the assistant. When the AI sees the structure you expect, it is more likely to produce results that match that format. Structured outputs turn AI responses into practical tools that professionals can use immediately. Now that we understand the design principles, let's build the assistant. The good news is that we don't need any special software or technical setup. To begin, open your web browser and go to gemini.google.com. Sign in using your Google account. Once you're inside Gemini, start a new conversation by clicking New Chat. This creates a blank workspace where you can paste the assistant instructions. On the next slide, we'll provide the full prompt template for the Sales Prospect Research Assistant. After pasting the prompt into Gemini, you'll simply replace the placeholder fields with information about your prospect. Then press Enter. Gemini will follow the instructions and generate a structured prospect brief automatically. Build your Sales Research Assistant in Lovable. This is the moment where everything we've covered in this module becomes practical. Up to this point, we've talked about what makes an assistant useful, how to structure one, and what kind of work it should perform. Now we're going to actually build one. On this slide, you're looking at the instructions for creating your Sales Research Assistant in Lovable. And before we go any further, I want to make this easy on you. The full copy and paste build prompt is included in the video description below, so you do not need to pause the video and type this out by hand. Just open the description, copy the full prompt, and paste it into Lovable when you're ready. That's important because this lesson is about building, not transcribing. Now let's talk about what this assistant is actually going to do. This assistant is designed for a very real B2B sales activity, researching a target account before outreach. A salesperson identifies a company they want to contact. But before sending an email or booking a call, they need context. They need to understand what the company does, what priorities it likely has, what pain points may matter, and how to start a relevant conversation. That's exactly what this app is designed to help with. If you look at the left side of the slide, you'll see the assistant's job clearly defined. It should research a target company using live web search. It should summarize what the company does. It should identify likely industry challenges. It should highlight buyer role priorities. It should generate messaging angles. It should suggest discovery questions, and it should draft a short outreach email. That list is doing a lot of work. It tells Lovable what kind of assistant we're building. It tells the AI what outputs matter. And it keeps the lesson focused on a real business use case, not just a generic demo. Now let's look at the technical stack shown on the slide. We're using Lovable to generate the app interface. We're using Serper API to give the app live web search capability. We're using OpenAI or Gemini API to analyze the research results and generate the structured brief. And we're using Supabase if we want to save those research briefs for later use. This is an important distinction. Without a search layer, the assistant is limited to whatever the model already knows. That may be good for brainstorming, but it is not always good enough for account research. By adding live search, we make the assistant much more useful in the real world. The simple workflow here is user input, live search, AI analysis, and then structured output. That output should not be one giant paragraph. It should come back in useful sections like company overview, likely priorities, likely buyer concerns, messaging angles, suggested discovery questions, and an outreach email draft. That structure is what makes the assistant actually usable for salespeople. Now let's talk about the big prompt block on the slide. This is the build instruction you'll paste into Lovable. The prompt tells Lovable to create a web app called B2B Sales Research Assistant. It defines the purpose of the app, the inputs the user should enter, the actions the app should perform, the tools it should connect to, and the output sections it should generate. In other words, this is not just a prompt for content, it is a prompt for building a tool, and that's the key mindset shift in this module. You are no longer just asking AI to write something, you are using AI to build an assistant that helps complete a recurring job. That's a much more powerful skill. Now, when you follow along with this slide, here's what I want you to do. First, open the video description and copy the full Lovable build prompt. Second, open Lovable and paste the prompt in. Third, let Lovable generate the first version of the app. Then, connect your search and model layers so the app can actually research companies and return useful results. And finally, test it with a real prospect company. That last step matters. Don't just admire the app, use it. Try a company from your current pipeline. See what the assistant returns. Check whether the summary feels accurate. Check whether the discovery questions are useful. Check whether the outreach email sounds relevant or generic. If something is off, refine it. Ask Lovable to improve the layout. Adjust the output structure. Tighten the instructions. Add a stronger section for buyer priorities or a better outreach draft. That process is normal. Real assistant building is iterative. But once you have a working version, you've done something important. You've built a practical sales research assistant that can save time, improve preparation, and help you move faster on real accounts. So again, to make this easy, the full copy and paste build prompt is in the video description below. Grab it there, paste it into Lovable, and start building. That's the point of this module. Not just learning about assistants, actually building one. Now that your sales research assistant is built, the next step is to test it with a real company. This is where the lesson becomes practical. Choose a prospect from your pipeline and enter their company name, website, industry, and target buyer role. Then review the output carefully. Start by checking the company summary. Does it sound accurate and relevant? Next, Look at the buyer priorities and pain points. Do they match what someone in that role would realistically care about? Then review the messaging angles, discovery questions, and outreach email. Do they feel specific enough to start a real conversation? If anything feels generic, refine the app, adjust the prompt, improve the output structure, or clarify the assistant's instructions. Testing is not a final exam. It is how you make the assistant more useful in real sales work. One of the biggest advantages of building an AI assistant is that you can improve it over time. Your first version does not need to be perfect. It just needs to work. Once you test it with real prospects, you'll quickly see where it can be stronger. For example, you may want better discovery questions, a shorter outreach email, or more specific buyer pain points. You might decide to add sections like objection handling, competitor context, or CRM ready notes. You can also customize the assistant to reflect your own company, product, or sales process so the outputs feel more relevant. This is where assistant building becomes powerful. You are not stuck with a static tool. You can refine the instructions, improve the structure, and shape the assistant around your workflow. The goal is not just to build an assistant, it's to build one you will actually use. Congratulations! You've now completed Module 5 of the AI Professional Certification Series, AI Certified Assistant Builder. And this module matters because it marks an important shift in how you use AI. At the beginning of this certification, we focused on prompting. That was about learning how to ask better questions and get better outputs. Then we moved into GPTs, apps, and workflows. Each step expanded what AI could do for you. But this session is different. In this training, you moved beyond using AI as a tool you talk to. You started using AI as something you can shape, structure, and build around real work. That is a major change. You didn't just ask AI to write an email. You didn't just ask it to summarize something. You designed a real assistant around a real business task. In this case, that task was one that B2B sales professionals face every day: researching accounts, understanding buyers, and preparing for outreach. By the end of this session, the goal is not that you simply understand what an assistant is. The goal is that you have actually built one, even if it is a first version, even if it still needs refinement. You now have something real. You have an assistant that can help with prospect research, identify likely priorities, suggest messaging angles, draft outreach, and support the kind of preparation that usually takes much more time when done manually. That is a real capability. And more importantly, it is a transferable capability. Because once you understand how to build one assistant, you begin to understand how to build many. You can use the same logic to create a discovery prep assistant, a follow-up assistant, a meeting summary assistant, a proposal assistant, a CRM notes assistant, a customer success assistant, a marketing research assistant. The specifics may change, but the design pattern stays the same. You define the job, you define the inputs, you define the steps, you define the outputs, and then you refine the assistant until it becomes useful. That is the real lesson of this module. Assistant building is not magic. It is not about being highly technical, and it is not about building something flashy just for the sake of saying you built it. It is about identifying a recurring task and asking a very practical question. Can I design an assistant that helps me do this faster, better, and more consistently? That's the mindset we want you to leave with. And I want to emphasize something important here. Your first version does not have to be perfect. In fact, it probably won't be. That's normal. Real assistant building is iterative. You test it. You notice where the output is too generic. You improve the instructions. You adjust the structure. You tighten the sections. You add clarity. You remove friction. And over time, the assistant becomes more valuable. So, if your first version is only 70 or 80% of the way there, that is still a win. Because now you are no longer starting from zero. Now you have a working foundation. You have something you can improve. You have something you can use. And that is exactly how real tools get built. This module also sits at an important point in the overall certification journey. Prompting taught you how to guide AI. GPT Builder taught you how to package instructions. App Builder taught you how to create simple tools. Workflow Architect taught you how to connect tasks into repeatable systems. And now, Assistant Builder brings those ideas together into something more complete: a working assistant, a task oriented AI tool, something that feels less like a chat and more like a business asset. That is progress. So, as you finish this session, here's what I want you to take away. You do not have to wait for someone else to build every AI solution for you. You can build useful assistants yourself. You can identify work that is repetitive, manual, or time consuming, and you can design something better. That is an extremely valuable skill. It means you are no longer just reacting to AI tools as they appear. You are starting to think like a builder, like a designer, like someone who can shape how AI is used in real work. And that is exactly what this certification is trying to develop. So after this video, don't just move on without using what you built. Open the assistant, test it on a real company, refine it, save it, use it in your actual workflow, because the real value of this training is not that you watched it. The real value is that you built something you can use again tomorrow. That is how skill turns into leverage, and that is how learning turns into capability. So congratulations again on completing Module 5. You are no longer just using AI, you are building with it. And in the next module, we're going to move up one level again. We'll explore what it means to lead AI adoption inside teams and organizations, and how leaders can think strategically about the role AI should play in the future of work. Let's keep going.